Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Discussions with Dolf. And as you can probably get a sense, I'm up pretty high today. In fact, today I'm as high as you can possibly get, not on this planet, that would be scaling Mount Everest, of course, but I'm as high as you can possibly get by going into a public place that's available on this planet, and that's on top of the Burj Khalifa Tower. This is an astounding building. Of course, there's a whole history about it. I don't want to bore you with stats, but I will tell you this. The Eiffel Tower, which was the tallest building when it was built in 1889 for the Paris Exposition, and it remained the tallest building in the world until 1931, I believe, when the Empire State Building was opened, and it stands at 331 meters high. This building is at 550 meters. It's significantly higher. And when you get up at these altitudes, just the ordinary wind of the day tends to cause quite a significant sway on the building, which is something you have to contend with. And I wonder whether that, in fact, gives you a practical limit to how high you can go. As with any building before it, it was the Eiffel Tower, as I said at one stage, then the Empire State Building. At one stage, the Sears Roebuck Tower in Chicago was the tallest building. I remember going up that, 110 floors. It had supposedly the fastest elevators in the world. It took 56 seconds to do the 110 floors. These elevators, I believe, are even faster. They do 3 floors per second. It takes about 20 or 30 floors to accelerate up to its top speed. And then you're going at this way, and you feel your ears pop several times. And there's a very interesting phenomenon, of course, when it comes to multi-story buildings, and that is you've always got a ratio between land and the square meterage or square footage of rentable space that you've got. And with a single-story building, the maximum you can get is 100% coverage of your site. Many building codes in many cities don't allow 100% of the site to be occupied. Because they have what's called recession plane limits. You need to allow light onto the neighboring premises, and that is not really possible if everyone builds to their borders. So let's say you've got 80% site coverage. Then by having 2 stories, you obviously get twice as much rentable space. Usually as the building gets taller, the amount of area you can put up at that altitude goes down, again for the light coming in. And this tower, in fact, is one where as you get taller and taller, the building gets narrower and narrower. It's not just for light for neighboring buildings. I think that's not so much an issue here, but it's for structural strength. You can't have a building this tall. I think it's 160 floors tall, and have it go right to the outer edge all the time without there being some challenge with it teetering over or coming over. So it's a very interesting thing that in order to get the most use of your land, then you want to go up. Now, of course, when you buy a building, you can depreciate it in most jurisdictions, although it's reducing. I understand in New Zealand recently they cut out depreciation on buildings, which was a significant component in working out whether it was an economically viable proposition. So in that sense, you want a very small portion of your purchase price to be accounted for by land, which you cannot depreciate, and a very large proportion of your purchase price to be taken account of by the building, which you can depreciate. So in that sense, a small shed on a 10 hectare or 10 acre lot doesn't give you much value that you can depreciate. Whereas a 160 story building on whatever this is, 10 acres down below, you can depreciate a significant proportion of the price, the purchase price or the construction price, because most of it is building. And that's just one of those interesting phenomena that comes into play. Of course, there's also a limit, as you saw in the last discussions. You need some kind of elevator system. We showed the Paternoster elevator system, which despite its major detractions and detractors has a number of big advantages. But there's a limit to how high you can go before you need an elevator. And an elevator, of course, brings in its own element of cost. You need the elevators to be serviced, and the cables have to be certified that they can hold the weight of, the carriage itself, the what do you call it, the cubicle, the thing you climb into, I forget the word right now, and perhaps 10 or 20, or whatever the limit is, of people that you can hold on board, not that the cable snaps, which raises the interesting question. If you were in an elevator where the cable snapped and it was falling towards the ground, what would be the best position to be in to minimize your chances of having an untimely demise, I guess? And anyway, there are many theories on that, but that's a topic for another discussion. Right now, I'm saying that there are some parts of the world which are leaders in bringing buildings to heights heretofore unimagined. And remember, when the Eiffel Tower was built for the Paris Exposition, the idea was that it would be pulled down again at the end of the exposition. But the Parisians liked it so much, they petitioned, in fact, that it should be able to stay. And then in the 1920s, a colorful character called Count Lustig, he, believe it or not, sold the Eiffel Tower not once, but twice. And you might say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, the only thing wrong with that whole proposition is that it wasn't his to sell. But he successfully sold it twice. And this is one of the reasons why you have to do your due diligence to make sure that when you buy something and cough up good money for it, the person you're paying the money to is in fact the legitimate owner of the property. Anyway, that's another topic as well. In fact, I think I've spoken about the history of the Eiffel Tower and how it got sold. But anyway, these buildings all left indelible marks on the cities they were built in. And ironically, by the way, this tower, the engineering and design work for it was done by a Chicago company, which, as I said before, is where the Sears Roebuck Tower was and still is. It's just been given a new name. So anyway, whoever builds magnificent towers like this, they put their cities on the map. Kuala Lumpur, for instance, the capital of Malaysia, it's got the Petronas Towers. I saw it being built. I used to go there frequently running events. And just like this building, they had 3 crews working 8-hour shifts, 24 hours a day. To this day, it is still the tallest twin tower in the world. And I don't know, I'm blessed I get to travel a bit. So I've been to a lot of these places and they never cease to fascinate me. The engineering behind them, and then the stunning views you get from them. And especially if you've got a good coffee to consume while you're enjoying the views, you can contemplate what is going on in the city below, and more particularly how you may participate in that real estate market. Anyway, that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you so much for being here, and until next time, I want to wish you, as always, successful investing. Thank you. And it's good coffee at this altitude.